Sophia. Her mother had died. Sophia opened her eyes, seeing nothing but mist. White lay all around her, except for the green of ryegrass at her feet. One strand scratched at her left ankle, just above her white sock. She plucked the strand, held it between her fingers, and dropped it. The mist swirled around the strand as it fell, and eventually consumed it. Sophia opened her mouth and tasted salt. She wiped away the tears from what she expected must have been red and swollen eyes. She didn't stop wiping until she stopped crying. A train whistle sounded. She could feel the rumble of the train. It grew in its violence somewhere to Sophia's left, completely obscured. She heard crows squawk and flap their wings as the train approached. And for a moment she caught a glimpse of a light, but it disappeared as the rumbling ebbed. The whistle blew again. Sophia uncrossed her legs and looked up into the vapor. She placed both hands behind her and felt the morning dew wetting each finger. The tears returned. As she lay down, she felt something crawl on her eyebrow. She reached up and plucked it off. She felt tiny wings flutter against her fingertips. She opened her hand and watched the body roll down onto her palm, the black and red shell shiny in the mist. The ladybug stumbled, shook itself, lifted its wings, and flew off. The clouds swallowed it. A light rain started. Sophia stood, clutched her flannel shirt, and walked forward. Raindrops fell, dampening her clothes, mixing with her tears. No one could see her. No one could hear her. No one knew that she cried, that she mourned. She could be alone. She wiped her nose with her sleeve. The toe of her red and black Converse contacted something solid. She looked but couldn't see the object, so she crouched down until it became clear. She touched the rust of the train track. It flaked onto her fingers. She rubbed the rust until it disappeared and looked to her right. The mist, thinning, looked brighter, whiter. She took a step to the right. The ground squelched as her foot sunk half an inch into the mud. She took another and sunk deeper. The mud acted as a suction around her shoe, and a pop sounded when she lifted her foot. The rain turned to a downpour, and she ran. She stepped on a wet rock. Her shoe picked up no traction. She slipped and fell. Her shoulders slammed into the ground, and mud splattered onto her face. She wiped it and tried to get it out of her eye. She pushed herself up onto her knees. The mist had lifted a foot off the ground. Soon it would be gone. On the edge of her vision, through shining particles of moisture, Sophia could see tall grasses, the trunk of a tree, and a sliver of water. The pond could not be more than a quarter-mile away, as would her father's tiny rowboat. Had he remembered to bring the boat to shore? Had he remembered to put it up under the tree? Had he remembered to flip it over? Chest heaving, she ran towards the shore. She imagined herself in her father's tiny rowboat, her father humming as he rowed. Ahead, she saw the rowboat tethered to a mooring. The boat's gray paint had cracked in several places. The oars sat in the boat, resting on a splintered edge. On the tip of the bow stood a small figurine nailed in, the misshapen outline of a star. She'd made that star. The rain thickened. The mist hovered above her head. She grabbed the rope and pulled. Sophia could see that water already filled half the boat. Weighted down by the continual rain, the boat got stuck, feet from the shore. Sophia tugged and tugged. She sank ankle-deep into the mud. She could feel it in her socks. She let go of the rope. Sophia splashed into the water. Goosebumps rose all over her skin. The cold seemed to seep deeper past her skin, her muscles, and into her veins. Her jeans stuck to her calves. Her shoes weighed down with water. She tossed both oars out onto the shore. Her muscles strained as she pulled on the boat again. Her lower back spasmed. She stopped, held a hand to her back, and massaged it. Sophia looked at the boat and tried to kick it, but her leg dragged through the water. She barely made any contact. The boat rocked a little. Sophia watched water flop out of the boat. She took hold of one side of the boat with both hands. She rocked it until most of the water emptied and pulled the boat several yards inland. The mist had become fog, high above her. The rain poured around her, obscuring her surroundings as effectively as the mist had. Sophia flipped the boat over. She could only make out the gray of the sky and the green of the grass. She knelt, lifted the lip of the boat, and crawled under it, consumed by the darkness underneath. The ground felt soft. The shell of the boat provided warmth. Sophia closed her eyes. She reached up into her hair and rubbed her scalp, droplets of rainwater covering her hands. She could hear the pitter-patter of the rain, rhythmic and hypnotic. She took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of wood and of the earth. It didn't take long before she fell asleep. When Sophia woke, she couldn't hear the rain. She lifted the boat on the stern side, forcing the mud to gurgle. She crawled onto her belly, out from the boat and into the daylight. She blinked, adjusting to the light. She clambered to her knees. Any trace of the fog or the rain had disappeared, though the black storm clouds remained above. She stood, stretched, and felt the weight of the mud that clung to her shirt. She wiggled both feet and tossed much of the muck off her shoes. She looked over to the pond. One of the oars she'd tossed half floated in the water. Sophia could hear a voice. It shouted out. She thought she heard her name. She walked back to the boat and tipped it over. She dragged it back into the water, collected both oars and climbed in, water dripping from every part of her. As the voices came closer, she rowed away further into the pond. The pond connected to a narrow stream. The rowboat barely fit. Sophia rowed up the river, surrounded by green trees, green brush, green grass, all glistening with rainwater. Sophia didn't think. She forced her arms to make the same circular movement. The farther Sophia went, the harder she rowed. Her arm muscles swelled. Her shoulders grew tired. She breathed, filling her lungs. The clouds began to clear as she rowed upstream. Sophia approached an old woman sitting in a camping chair. The camping chair stood on brown dirt, one leg much deeper in the dirt than the other three. Several feet behind the woman stood a steep hill covered in weeds, trees, and honeysuckle. The woman wore black rain boots, scratches and dirt covering most of the rubber. She wore a canvas hat, brown waders, and a green t-shirt. She held a 12-foot fishing pole, black with blue line. The line sat in the water flowing downstream. Squat, the woman carried much weight in her thighs and belly. A square jaw and small chin didn't hide several folds of fat. Lines, deep cut, littered the face of the woman, the neck of the woman, the hands of the woman. Fat rolled off her arms, hanging loose, wobbling with each movement. Sophia looked away from the woman and accelerated her rowing. As Sophia passed, the woman grunted, "Watch the line." Sophia stopped rowing and looked at the woman. The woman only glanced at her before reeling in the line. Sophia and the rowboat slid back down the stream before she resumed rowing, aiming for the bank a few feet from the woman. Sophia stepped out of the boat, plunging her shoes back into the cold water. She ignored her chills and pulled the boat up onto the bank. She looked over to the woman, but the woman said nothing. Sophia took off her shirt, a cyan and purple plaid button-down, and revealed a gray undershirt. Dirt covered her bare arms and shoulders. It covered her neck. It covered her chest. Her silver necklace and a cross hanging from it no longer sparkled. She wrung out her shirt, water depositing onto the ground beneath her feet. She hung her shirt on a tree branch. The arms of her shirt hung down from the branch. She did likewise with her pants and socks, slinging them over the same branch. "I got a blanket in there somewhere," the woman said, gesturing with her head toward a muddy crate. The woman cracked open a beer and threw an empty can behind her. Sophia walked barefoot to the crate, an olive green with as many scratch marks as the woman's boots. Sophia lifted its top to find lures, bait, food, drink, and clothes scattered all together. Sophia dug until she found a purple wool blanket pristinely kept in a vacuum-sealed bag. She opened it and wrapped the blanket around her waist as some type of skirt. "Don't do that," the woman snarled. "Throw it around your shoulders. I don't want any dirt getting on it." Sophia did as she said, exposing her guitar-patterned boy shorts for the second time. She stood there, shivering. "You're that Dunkley girl, huh?" the woman said. She eyed her for a moment before throwing her line back out. Sophia nodded. "They've been looking for you," she laughed. "Whole town's looking for you." Sophia didn't say anything. She clung to the blanket. "How old are you? 14? 15? 15.
Pretty stupid to run away at age 15.
I'm not running away.
Then what are you doing?
Sophia only shrugged.
Mom died, right?
Sophia nodded.
Quick?
Sophia nodded again, then said, "We thought she only had a cold." She began to weep silently. The woman looked away from her line.
"Don't do that. Everyone dies."
Sophia stifled a sob and exhaled a breath through her nostrils.
"My mom died when I was younger than you. My child died before she was your age. Everyone dies," she repeated.
Sophia remained still.
"I got another pole."
The woman indicated the fishing pole lying on the ground by the crate. Sophia waited for a minute. She walked over and picked it up. She attached a simple bobber to the end. She sat on the bank, a little behind the woman, and threw the blanket over her head, careful to make sure it didn't touch the ground. The woman watched her. Sophia cast the line. She cast it short as to not cross lines with the woman. The bobber zipped downstream. After several minutes, Sophia spoke. "I don't like fishing much."
The woman laughed, the sound escaping flat lips. "No one likes fishing. They just like the quiet and the beer."
The woman reeled in her line, cast it again, and waited. Sophia held her rod between her thumb and forefinger, balancing it on the webbing between those two fingers. "I want my mom back."
"Tough,"
the woman said. The woman burped. Sophia lowered her head. She put the fishing pole down and grabbed a handful of sand from the stream. She watched it slip between her fingers. A small pile of sand lay dormant on her palm.
"You're not special,"
the woman said.
She sipped her beer and shifted her weight in her chair. "Everyone dies. And there goes your boat."
Sophia turned and watched. Her dad's boat had dislodged from where she'd placed it. It turned in the stream's current, aimless, and one of the oars tipped and fell into the water. Sophia meant to stand and run over, but gave up before she stood. The boat disappeared around a bend.
"Don't fret, there's only one place for it to go. It'll just sit in that pond your dad likes to play in."
Sophia sat back down on the bank. The blanket slid off her right shoulder and crumpled onto the ground. Sophia tried to catch it, but missed. The woman slapped Sophia over the head with her fishing pole. Sophia's head throbbed. She blinked several times.
"I told you not to get the blanket in the dirt,"
shouted the woman. Sophia stood and kicked her fishing pole into the stream. She stepped on the blanket as she stormed over to her clothes, gathering them. Holding her shirt and pants in one hand and her shoes and socks in the other, she marched away. The woman struggled to stand, cursing Sophia. Sophia climbed up the steep hill. She slung her shirt and pants over one shoulder and used a grouping of roots for hand and footholds. At the top of the hill, she felt thick grass between her toes. She looked out at a field. The field ended at a road. On the other side of a road sat a farm. Tall stalks of corn grew on the farm. The stalks went off to the right and left for forever, it seemed. The sun stood in the sky. The storm clouds floated off to the east. A warm breeze blew through. Sophia bathed in the light for a moment, but the curses of the old woman reached her ears. Sophia put on her pants, shivered, and walked the length of the field to the edge. Hard and cracked pavement, a bluish gray, lay before her. The road consisted of 2 lanes. Faded yellow paint identified lane from lane. Any trace of white paint had disappeared years ago. The road stretched on for miles in either direction. Her stomach growled. She held a hand to it. She imagined the fridge at home. Little sat on its shelves, a jar of pickles, jars of jam, peanut butter, sour cream, salami, and a plastic container of greens. The fridge needed more food, but who would buy the food now? Sophia chose to go left and head west. She walked barefoot. She felt her skin dry in the sun. She massaged her arm muscles. She walked 3 miles total, through fields of corn and through fields of mud, until she came upon a small brick house with a flat roof and small black-trimmed windows. A large white sign with green lettering on top of the building said, "Market, Monday through Saturday." Sophia approached the front door, a screen door that sagged down to the left and didn't latch properly. A gentle wind made the hinges squeak. Puddles of water lined the foundation of the house. A mouse ran out from a small hole, through a puddle, and scampered to the safety of the field nearby. Sophia put her shirt, socks, and shoes back on, feeling the water come out as she squished her toes down. The shop sat empty. No one stood at the cash register or behind the deli counter. Sophia picked up a basket at the front. She moved about, picking out several vegetables, eggs, a sandwich loaf, 8 apples, a half-gallon of milk, and 2 candy bars. The shopkeeper came from a pair of double doors, red with a circular window, holding 3 large boxes. The shopkeep stood around 6 foot and 4 inches. He held a massive amount of weight on his frame. His belly looked twice as thick as his chest. The fabric of his red shirt clung to rolls of fat on his back. His head sat on a bubble of fat. He wore a baseball cap, which pinched down on a bald head. As the shopkeep backed out from the swinging door, he wiggled his body as he whistled an old rock song. Every inch of him wobbled as he moved. The door swung into the man's right arm, knocking several boxes from his grasp. The top box burst open, sending onions everywhere. The shopkeep got on all fours, picking up the onions one by one, and tossed them back into the box. Sophia leaned over the counter and asked, "Can I have 2 pounds of the ground turkey?" Still picking up the onions, the man said, 2 pounds, big bird, got it. He laughed and snorted. Big bird, he muttered to himself. The shopkeep pushed the boxes against the wall in front of him and stood, not looking at Sophia. He reached blindly and produced a giant silver spoon. He scooped a hunk of turkey onto the glass counter while typing in the price on a calculator. When he handed her the meat covered in brown wrappings, his eyes landed on her face and he said, "Oh." Any semblance of a smile dissipated. "Sophie, everyone's looking for you. What are you doing here?" Sophia looked over to her left. A black wire shelf stood from floor to ceiling, filled with DVDs and VHS movies. Posted on the left of the shelf were the prices to rent or buy the movies. Galaxy Quest sat on the 3rd shelf in the wrong spot. She'd put that movie there just 2 days ago, her mother telling her they had to leave, coughing into a handkerchief. "Hey, Sophie." The shopkeep put his chin on the deli counter, the fat of his neck spreading out on either side of his jaw. Hairs sprouted from his nose, which looked much like snout. "I'm real sorry. Can I pay now, please?" "Sure," the shopkeep said. His belly led the way to the cash register. Behind the cash register sat a refrigerator with glass doors full of flowers. He stood in front of the flowers, blocking Sophia's view of them, and took her items from the basket. He started to scan them, paused, holding the carton of eggs. "Hey, you're not running away with all this, are you?" "No." "Can I call your dad?" Sophia shrugged. "How much?" He rang her up and placed her food in a paper bag. Sophia searched her pockets. She found nothing. "Don't worry about it. You don't need to pay today." Sophia kept her chin pointed down, her lids lowered. "I'll come back." "No, don't. Don't worry about it." "I'll come back," she repeated. "Sophie?" Sophia looked up at him, staring straight up his nostrils. He spoke softly, as if Sophia would blow over if he breathed too hard. "We're all real sorry. Your mom was the best gal I ever knew. I remember—" But the shopkeep stopped talking. He turned around and opened the refrigerator door, pulling a single yellow rose from a bouquet. He held it out to Sophia. "Here, yellow's your favorite, right?" Sophia nodded. It didn't matter that she preferred pink over yellow. Her mother had loved yellow. She took the bag from the counter and the flower from the shopkeep's hand. 100 feet from the store, Sophia heard the shopkeep talking on the phone. He told whoever sat on the other end of the line that she'd come to the shop, that he couldn't get a hold of her dad. Sophia began to walk home. It didn't take long before someone found her. A minivan pulled up beside her, gray and rusted on the fender. The car slowed down and maintained speed with Sophia. The tires rolled unevenly, and the suspension squeaked even though the car drove on a flat road. A woman with short brown hair hand-cranked the passenger side window and leaned towards her, placing a hand on the empty passenger seat to steady herself. The woman's cheeks were rounded and red. Her nose pointed out in an angular fashion. Her right arm flapped as she tried to quiet down 5 children in the back 2 rows of the car. She wore a colorful rain jacket that puffed out from her body. "Sophia, let me give you a ride home," the woman said. All the children in the back started shouting, "Sophie! Sophie!" Sophia waved to the children in the back. 2 waved back. The smallest, a 4-month-old, merely burped. The oldest 2 started fighting. The woman stretched and reached the door handle, popping open the door. She waved Sophia in, saying, "I insist." Sophia opened the door and stepped into the car. The woman kept it clean, though dust could be seen in sun rays. They drove together for several miles. The woman offered a box of moist wipes to clean up. Sophia tucked the flower behind her ear and accepted the box. She used 9 to clean her chest, shoulders, neck, face, and arms. The woman kept looking at Sophia, her eyes darting between her, the road, and her children. She often screeched at her kids to stop doing something or another, but at one point the woman took Sophia's hand and squeezed it. "Your dad was out looking for you. We all were." She let go of Sophia's hand. Sophia noticed how short the woman's nails seemed, as if they'd almost been completely chewed off. "I expect he'll be home soon. He was out at the train tracks last I heard." Sophia nodded, but stayed silent. "Mom, can Sophie come play?" asked one of the children, a small blonde girl no more than 5 years old. "No, Sophie has to go home and wait for her father." The woman craned her neck to make sure her 2 oldest didn't start fighting again. After taking a right onto a dirt path, the car stopped outside a 2-story house, white with dark wood accents. Sophia exited the car without a word. "You be safe," the woman called after her. Sophia heard the car squeak as it turned around and drove off. From the backyard came Sophia's dog, a black and white husky. Sophia picked up a tennis ball and threw it at least 30 yards. She watched the dog careen after the ball and slipped through a side door of the house into a mudroom. Sophia kicked off her shoes and socks, leaving them behind as she walked towards the back of the house where the kitchen sat. The kitchen contained about a foot of free counter space. The floor and counter consisted of cracked white tile, which contained grime, dirt, and specks of old food. Dirty dishes lay around a shallow sink. 3 mason jars, each filled with water, and an avocado pit sat on the sink window ledge. The fridge leaned forward on a missing leg. A fan, dusty with cobwebs, came down from the ceiling. By the kitchen door stood 2 chairs and a small gate-leg table. Sophia put the groceries down on the counter and looked straight up. The kitchen ceiling had been painted with a mural her mom created years ago. A sheep sat in a grassy field beside a pond. The sun pointed straight at the sheep. Her parents' bed stood right above her, past the mural. Sophia forced herself not to think about what had lay in the bed that morning. Sophia washed a few dishes, creating a bit more space to work in. She got out a cutting board and a sack of potatoes from a cabinet. She used a dull knife to skin the potatoes, filled a pot with water, threw the potatoes in, and turned on a stove burner. She placed the pot down. A metallic sound rang through the house. Sophia sat in a chair by the kitchen door and placed her face in her hands. She dug her nails into her forehead and flexed her feet. A tiny voice said her name. Sophia's head snapped up. A small girl with long brown hair stood in the archway between the kitchen and the living room. She still wore her pajamas, a blue and white striped set. She wore green slippers made to look like Yoda. "Want to play?" the girl asked. Sophia knelt by the girl and hugged her tight. The girl hugged back, her arms squeezing around Sophia's shoulders. "Not right now," Sophia said. "I'm cooking dinner." "Mom can do that," the girl said. Sophia kissed her sister's forehead. "Not today. Today I have to." "But I want to play now." "In a bit." "What are you making?" "Turkey sandwiches and mashed potatoes." "Yuck." "Dad will like it." "Yuck, yuck, yuck." Sophia smiled. She pulled the 2 candy bars from the paper bag. "I got our favorites, but no telling Dad." "Or Mom?" Sophia kept the smile on her face. The 2 girls bit into their bars at the same time. A wind picked up outside. The water boiled. Storm clouds returned, but the rain did not fall. The dog whined at the kitchen door. Sophia let her in. Her sister left the kitchen and climbed the stairs. Sophia listened to her footsteps as her sister walked into her room and came back downstairs. She placed several coloring books and a box of crayons on the table. The dog lay next to her sister. "I saw the Toad Woman today," Sophia said. Her sister gasped and hid behind a coloring book. "No!" "I did. I sat next to her." "No!" "She's not very nice." I told you she wasn't very nice. She's evil." Sophia put oil in a pan and turned another burner on. "She's not evil. She doesn't have any family is all." "Is she lonely?" "I expect." "Oh." Her sister resumed coloring. Sophia took 3 plates down from a shelf. She put 2 slices of bread on each. She took the potatoes off the heat, deposited them into a bowl, added cream and butter, and mashed them. She threw kale and turkey into the pan and cooked both together. She put the kale and turkey on the bread, plopped the potatoes on the plate, and served her sister. The 3rd plate she put on top of the fridge. The dog whined until Sophia gave her a scoop of potatoes. Her sister complained until Sophia told her they couldn't play until she finished her food. "Why did you only make 3 plates?" her sister asked. Sophia fought tears and said, "Dad should be home soon." After dinner, her sister brought down her action figures and wanted to play Jedi versus Sith. Sophia had to be the Sith. They didn't stop playing until the front door flew open. "Sophie?" Sophie's dad stood in the doorway staring at his daughter, soaked but not dripping. He wore a raincoat and rain boots. Dirt covered his pants, his jacket, and his hands. He stormed into the living room, tracked mud with him, and pulled his daughter into a hug, ignoring the dog. Sophia crossed her arms and pressed into her dad's chest. She felt the dirt press into her skin. Sophia did not cry. Instead, she shook. Her dad rubbed her arms and kissed the top of her head repeatedly. "I was so worried. I was so worried. I was so worried." "Why were you worried, Dad?" her little sister asked. Their dad did not answer. Sophia pushed herself out of the hug after several minutes. She massaged her own temples and stepped on a toy. Her sister shouted to be careful. Sophia told her dad to eat dinner. He went to his study first and changed into a robe he kept in there. He sat at the kitchen table and stooped over his sandwich. Sophia picked up the toy she'd stepped on. She'd bent Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. Sophia apologized, but her sister said she'd bent it a while ago. "Can we finish the fight?" her sister asked, holding out Darth Vader. "Not right now. Go get a book," Sophia said. Her sister hopped up and raced upstairs. She stumbled halfway up, but kept running. Sophia went to a corner of the living room where a closet door stood. She twisted the metal knob and felt the cold of the handle on her flesh. She stopped only for a moment before she opened it. A collection of her mother's aprons swung on the door, all connected to a hook. She took the vacuum out and put it aside. She grabbed a yellow bucket and a mop. She put the vacuum back inside. She walked with the mop and bucket to the front door, careful to avoid her dad's mud prints. She slipped into a pair of her mother's old and oversized boots and opened the door. Across the porch, she took hold of a garden hose and placed it in the bucket. She found the water spout and twisted it. She twisted it back when the bucket looked half full. When she entered the house again, her dad stood in the entryway. Sophia could hear her sister humming in her room and saying over and over, "Not this one." Her dad took the bucket and mop and set it aside. "I'll do it," he said. Sophia nodded. She looked up the stairs. She could see the door to her room, to her sister's room, to her parents' room. She sniffled. Her dad took her in his arms. She crossed her arms against her chest and placed her head on her dad.